Hi, RAFT volunteers. I'm really excited to celebrate 1 year of RAFT with you. I'm actually doing a recording after the 1 year celebration for those of you who were not able to attend or maybe came a little late or had a little difficulty hearing us. Thank you, though, for everyone who did come to Metazoa to help celebrate 1 year of the RAFT program. So I just wanted to provide a bit of a presentation. First is an overview, the White River Alliance. You guys have been volunteering with us, and we are a regionally focused nonprofit organized to lead and led by 15-member multi-stakeholder board of directors. Our mission is to improve and protect water and water resources throughout central Indiana. As you can see on this map to the right, this is the White River watershed, in which we focus all of our RAFT sampling. Just as a reminder, what the RAFT program goals are, we are focused on helping fill agencies' knowledge gaps with a particular focus on items, external data framework. So that means we want our data to be used at the decision-making level. And that is a big thing that really guided the way we've developed this program. What we sample, how we sample it, what quality controls we do, all of that was with the ultimate goal of being able to submit our data to IDEM. Other goals are to help tease out pollution hotspots to measure trends over time, to help direct White River Alliances and member resources, to help support projects like the White River Report Card. That's to provide them data and other insights, to help inform partners work like MS4 entities, the Nature Conservancy, Hoosier Environmental Council, and many more. So really we want to use our data to help make strategic decisions around water quality issues and quantity possibly. So it's been a year since the public launch of the RAFT program, and we've actually accomplished a lot. So I wanted to highlight some of the great outcomes we've seen. So we've held 14 sampling events, and this is as of October of 2021, well, 2022 now, but in the past year. We have 144 volunteers signed up. 59 of them have completed the online training. Another 22 are in progress. So if you're here and you haven't completed your training, please go online and try to do that, because it's really important for quality control purposes and just that consistency that all of our volunteers go through the training. We've collected 306 samples. This does include weekday sampling and beta sampling we did in the development of this project. We have 54 sampling locations, and we've had some really great press coverage. This image on the left here actually shows when the Indianapolis Star shadowed us last January, I do believe, and interviewed some of our volunteers. That story was published in Indy, but also was republished throughout the watershed, including all the way up to Muncie. I also would like to highlight some of the collaboration and sharing we were able to do through the RAFT program. One that you guys are probably really familiar with is the nanoplastic sampling. So the whole focus of this partnership is to provide additional samples to Vitar, as you can see here, that is the high schooler and her dad, for they were creating a new way to sample nanoplastics. So this novel technology is a new approach to do it in more of a handheld, cheap way and be able to see what kind of nanoplastics are in our water. Just as a little insight, most of our sites have been below detection limit, which is really great. We'll try to find an opportunity for you guys to hear directly from her. We've also been collaborating with the Lower Fall Creek Watershed Management Plan. So they're still finalizing the plan with IDEM, but they need to be able to monitor the impact of their work moving forward. So we've added sites at Mud Creek and Sand Creek in collaboration with them. We're sharing lessons learned with other watersheds. So we've met with the St. Joe and Lake Washi River to talk to them about how the RAFT program is ran. We've also presented at multiple conferences, including Indiana Water Monitoring Council and Indiana Water Resource Association. So now to get to some of the exciting stuff, the actual data we've collected. I'm really excited to share with you guys some of the results we've been seeing so far. And I'm just going to be giving a high-level overview of several of the parameters and then a little deep dive into a few sites. But if you want to spend a lot more time with our data, I really suggest you go to our website and into the RAFT program, where you'll find our data dashboard. This dashboard's great. You can actually filter it by location or by date. So you can look at a particular sampling event maybe that you volunteered at and you want to see how everything was going, or you can just look at a site maybe that's close to your house. We do update this monthly, usually within a couple of weeks of the sampling event. It's a great way to look at trends and correlations between sites or over time or based on weather and compare it against state standards. So you'll see there's these orange lines on different graphs, and those are the recommended state standards or some other like EPA standard. So now, one of the big things on the website, if you'll go to the bottom of the webpage, is the water quality index. And this kind of provides just a big snapshot of how that stream's doing. This is based on Hoosier River Watch. It provides insight in the overall stream health. It includes up to 8 parameters, but RAFT, we are only collecting 8 of those parameters, which are dissolved oxygen, pH, nitrate, turbidity, and E. coli. The parameters are weighted according to their level of importance to the stream health. So particularly the highest importance is dissolved oxygen and then followed by E. coli. So this dashboard score is an average of all samples collected for that particular location. It's just how it's presented. So you can see here on the right, one of the lowest scoring streams is Dollar Hide at Man Road. You guys might be familiar with this on the south side. And it has a 63.26, which puts it kind of in the middle of medium. So that's still not too bad. And that's kind of exciting to know that that's our lowest scoring site. Our highest is Cool Creek Tributary at Cool Creek Park. That's one of the northern sampling locations. And we have over 80, which puts us in the middle of good, which is exciting to see. So just to remind you guys, this is just kind of a snapshot. It's not conclusive, especially since we're not sampling all 8 of the parameters. Okay, now to dive a little deeper into the individual parameters, we want to look at the nutrient data, which those you collect through those grab samples that are sent to the lab. So we particularly want to hone in on nitrate plus nitrite and orthophosphate. When you're looking at this graph, this is all of our locations and every time we've sampled. So these are averages right now. But you can see on the bottom here, that's orthophosphate, and we are almost always at 0 with the exception of this one location. We have a little bit of a jump here, very small. And then if we look at the nitrate and nitrite, we do see that there is several times that it is above that proposed criteria, but the majority of the time it is below, which is really great. Now we kind of want to understand which sampling sites are getting this higher score on the nitrate so that we can really tease out and figure out maybe what's going on there. So we found that all of these locations have the higher nitrate score. So that's Bear Creek, Cool Creek, Duck Creek, Goose Creek, Hidden Lake, Causeway at Newfields, which is this right here, and Stony Creek at Cumberland Road, Swamp Creek at Man. So all of these sites pictured on this map. And then when we dove a little deeper to see if there was anything that is similar between these sites, we found that they all have active agriculture near them, which is pretty good connection. We know that a lot of agriculture applies fertilizers and things like that might run off into the stream. I will point out with the exception of Newfield, since the little asterisk, but that Newfield sampling site, if you've ever been there, it is very close to the White River. So really that water is a direct feed from the White River into that lake. So it's like not the best reflection of what's truly happening there, because so much load is getting into the White River itself that could be causing that nitrogen spike. So that is just one way we kind of look at the data and try to see what's going on. We'll be continuing to monitor these sites for all parameters and keeping a special eye on the nutrients there. Here is an example of what happens when you have too high of nitrogen loads. So this is Swamp Creek on the south side, and you can see all that algae bloom. So when you have a whole bunch of nutrients in your water, that can cause overgrowth of algae and will lead to things like eutrophication. If you've heard that phrase before, that's really where you have too much growth, which can be a problem though, because then later on in the year, once the algae all grows, you can actually have too much decomposition and bring down dissolved oxygen and lead to other issues, especially downstream, all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico, which can cause things like the dead zone and through the Gulf hypoxia. Anyway, so let's look at another parameter. We're going to spend some time with bacteria. So really, this is looking at the amount of E. coli in a stream. And all of this is loads. I mean, not loads, sorry. All of this is concentrations, as it says right here. So we're looking at amount of fecal chloroform units through per 100 milligrams of water sample. So we also collect this through a grab sample. And you'll notice here is the state standard line, which is 235 CFUs per 100 milliliters. So we're looking at this, all the site. What do we see going on? We see multiple spikes. Well, let's look at the weather, because we actually know a lot of times these spikes in our samples might be associated with what kind of weather during the event or right before the event. So if we look at our weather graph, I know this is a little bit difficult to read, but see overcast, rain is this blue, clear or storms. So let's look at a particular location. Here is the blue, so that means there was steady rain within 24 hours prior to sampling. And we go back to our E. coli, and we can see that that date directly correlates with this spike. So that kind of makes sense. Maybe there was an overflowing manhole or something like that directly feeding sewage or other waste into the stream. So let's, though, look at a different spike on this graph. So we see over here, we also have a really high spike. But we go back to the weather, and overcast is the worst weather we see. Also, if you look at the date, this is in July, so it tends to be a drier time of year. So it is interesting that we're seeing such a high concentration of E. coli in the middle of the summer and not during a rain event. So spent some time diving into that a little deeper to see if there's something that maybe directly caused this. And we actually found that particularly it was a particular site that was causing such a high spike. And that was Falcon Creek. So that's over by 30th, just north of Speedway. And if you look at that date, which is July 30th, when that spike occurred, we see that there was over 24,000 fecal chloroform units at that location. That is pretty high. So kind of trying to understand what's going on, one of the things that we do is we do habitat assessments. So some of you guys have already gone out and done that with us. We were out there in October, and we saw that there was this outflow constantly flowing, even though it's been a very dry season so far. So maybe this is one of the sources of the spikes, something directly being discharged into the stream. We were actually able to report this directly to the city. Gail, who's on our board, has been our primary point person, and then she reported it to the Marion County Health Department, and they have been sending teams out to investigate. They are currently still looking into what is going on here. They haven't found the exact source, but they'll keep us up to date. They do believe it is municipal water. While we were out there, it was warm to the touch. And the test that follow-up test they've done does so that it is clean water. So it's water that's been through the wastewater treatment plant, but they are still figuring out why and what is causing this flow. So that is just an example, though, of how we use our RAFT data and actually do direct action. So when we see something concerning, especially when we can take a picture of it and really point to here's where to look, we can send that off to our partners and they can take direct action on it. Sometimes, though, we don't have a direct discharge to look at. Maybe we're just seeing some concerning hotspots consistently over time. So another step of this RAFT program is to really tease out where different issues are. So continuing to focus on E. coli, we'll see on this map to the left, these are 3 of our sampling locations, and that is at Vestal Ditch is the downstream one. And you can see its E. coli loads here. And then particularly, let's focus on October 22nd. We'll see that there's over 4,000 E. coli. And then we compare on that same day and go look at our sampling sites and what were the loads upstream. So we look at Vestal Ditch on the same stream, upstream now though, and we're seeing that's only 683. So that's significantly lower upstream. And then let's go ahead and look at the tributary, which feeds into the Vestal Ditch location downstream, and that is Corkendale. at James Park, and we're seeing on that day over 3,000. So we're seeing a pretty high load over here. What that means is if we really want to continue to tease out and see where those potential sources are, we might want to continue adding new sites upstream from site 3 to see what is causing this load into this location. Additionally, we might want to sample, we will sorry, want to sample maybe this other tributary coming in, because that might be another contributor. But we're kind of playing that game of hot cold, if you remember that with kids. So we know that we will warm here, go upstream, and we were getting colder. Then we go over here and we were getting warmer. So let's see how warm we can get. And if maybe we can start to hone in on a particular location. If we're really lucky, maybe we'll even see a direct outflow coming out that's causing this. But that might not be the case. A lot of issues with E. coli can be things like failing septic systems. So that's just kind of leaching in through the ground itself. But maybe we can figure out a particular development where we're seeing the spike, because the E. coli load is high just after it, but then you go above a development and it goes low again. So maybe we can slowly start figuring out what stretch of stream is an issue, and then we can report that things to the health department or other locations. So this kind of leads directly into next steps for this RAFT program. So as I was already alluding to, in that last slide, is adding or changing our sampling sites. So this map of blue is all of our current 54 sampling sites. We will be adding new sites to better tease out those pollution hotspot sources, particularly on tributaries when possible upstream of an active site. We are also going to be retiring sites so we're not seeing any really issues. So that means we're not seeing any spikes in E. coli or nutrients or concerning levels of dissolved oxygen. So everything you just see that came up in yellow are sites we're proposing that we will retire. We do plan to still sample them at least once a year just to kind of keep a pulse on how they're doing. We also, beyond expanding sites just upstream to tease out pollution hotspots, we're looking at maybe expanding sites in correlation with some of our partners like the White River Report Card or Cornwall Clay Parks. So now you're seeing a whole bunch of spots that are orange. These are potential new sampling sites. They are not all guaranteed. We still have to do some ground truthing to see if it's accessible and safe for volunteers to go to, but I just kind of wanted to share the how many sites we could be adding or at least interested in expanding. And I'm really excited that we're able to add sites and not have to just say retire a whole bunch of them, because we actually have the capacity and ability to sample more, because we'll be adding an additional RAFT team. Thanks to the generous donation of Clay's family and Duke. In order to add another team, though, we do need more team leads. We have 10 great team leaders who have signed up to do this, but we need more than that just so we can kind of rotate who's leading the teams. But it's really key to have that person who is very familiar with the RAFT process and comfortable kind of helping to direct things. You still get to be hands-on and do everything that all the other volunteers do, but you'll just become my point person. So we're also able to add new sampling sites because of team efficiency. We are finding that the teams are usually getting done in 2.5 to 3 hours, which is great. So if you guys are already out there and have all of your gear, a lot of you guys have shown interest in maybe just being able to sample an additional site. So we're looking at adding a 4th site to sampling teams. Another change or upgrade, we might say, to the RAFT is we are looking at changing the type of handheld meter. So currently you guys are using that HANA instrument, but we are finding that there has been issues with the reliability of the dissolved oxygen amount. So it is not consistent before and after sampling events. So we really want to be able to trust our data and have a high level of confidence with it. And we're looking at getting a different type of meter to see if that will increase our accuracy. We're particularly looking at a YSI, if you're familiar with that. And once we get one of those in hand, we will be conducting some side-by-side sampling to just test out that meter before we commit to anything. So this will be a slow process. You're not going to see an immediate change on new meters, but we are excited thanks to some donations. We are looking at upgrading. So one of the last things I'm really excited to highlight is agency coordination and data sharing. So where we're going with that now. As you see in this picture on the left, that is the Hoosier River Watch database, which is also connected to IDEM's external data framework. So I'm really excited to share that our quality assurance project plan has been approved by IDEM. That is one of those necessary first steps before they would even consider using our data. They've also created site IDs for all of our locations because they need it to match into their program. And they actually just sent us the data template. It says coming soon, but we have now received it. We have it in hand. So that means we can start loading our RAFT data into their templates and then send it to them. So that's really exciting. Through these conversations with IDEM, I'm also very excited to share that they are planning to use our RAFT sampling data for the next cycle of stream assessment and consolidated listing. So that's that 303D list, that is the impaired streams list, which they look at every 2 years and have to submit to EPA saying whether or not certain streams are impaired for E. coli or nutrients or things like that. So this means that IDEM is planning, at least, to use our RAFT data at that decision-making level. That is really exciting. That's kind of the ultimate goal of this program, is to better inform the actual health of the streams and be able to use and provide that insight to that higher decision-making level. And it's particularly important for things like listing and delisting streams, because if a stream is listed as impaired for a particular designated use, say there's a lot of E. coli, since we've been looking at that, that means really there shouldn't be certain uses on it, like recreation. So if it's not a safe level, we really can't support things like beaches or even paddling and things like that. So we want to see healthier streams and be able to promote people using our waterways. So the more we can understand, though, what their current condition is, the more educated we can be when it comes to how we talk about and promote and use our waterways. So really excited that our data is, I feel like it already is making a difference in some locations and is going to continue to be important moving forward. And you'll be able to actually access the data on the website once they have gone through and done all of their checks and quality control. So you'll have our website, and then you'll actually have IDEM's website to look at all results. And we're also going to still be spending a fair amount of time reporting those hotspots directly to medicinal partners, since they have a lot of ability to do deeper investigation like we did on Falcon Creek, or as they're continuing to do on Falcon Creek. They can directly reach out to homeowners when necessary if something's happening like a failing septic. So there's a lot of possibility to really expand and dive into this a bit deeper now that we really have a robust data set, since we have over a year's worth of sampling data. So really, you guys are making a huge difference. None of this would be possible without your volunteering with us, because there's no way we can collect that many samples on our own. And having such dedicated volunteers who come back month after month really increases our quality and efficiency so that we can keep doing more and sampling at more sites. So I'm really thankful for everyone who has been part of this RAFT program. So with that, we do have some volunteer recognition we want to do. Since we are not at the really fun Metazoa event, I'm not going to spend too much time on here. If you were there, I actually called my colleague Haley to come up and to do the recognition. And we had some really great swag, RAFT swag, to recognize people. So I'm just going to let you guys see the names right now. So we wanted to recognize everyone who attended 4 or more RAFT sampling events, because that is our annual goal for volunteers, if possible. Just kind of having that consistency is really great and important. And for everyone who sampled 4 more RAFT sampling events, we have a really great tumbler. So that's like a cup that you can use at all of our events. So you can put coffee or anything like that in it. And if you see your name here, I will be reaching out to you and making sure you still get that awesome cup. We also wanted to thank our team leaders. So these are a list of all the leaders who have actively led a team since they have shown interest. And for all of our team leaders, we have a great hat to recognize you guys as those leaders. So we'll be making sure to get that to you so you have something to wear, designate your position within RAFT. So if you're interested in being a team lead and getting one of these awesome hats, please reach out to me. Lastly, I want to thank our sponsors. So this program would not be possible at all without the generous support of the Nina Mason Pulliam Charitable Trust Foundation. We also have been really lucky to get some individual sponsors, including Duke, and then Clay's family in honor of his parents, and Criddle Removal. We also want to thank all kickoff site hosts. So those are the locations we meet at each month. So we meet at Connor Prairie and Central Indiana Land Trust. So with that, I provided opportunity for questions. If you do have questions, just email them to me. So happy to give you more information. And then I will note during the event, we were able to have a guest speaker who wasn't able to attend, so there was a video. So we will be separately linking and sharing this really interesting study that was done at Vestal Ditch that was actually initiated partly due to the RAFT sampling data looking at stream flows. So it's a really exciting active resource that's going on there. But I will let Eric describe what all of that is through his recording, which you can watch separately. Well, thank you guys for a great year with RAFT. Really excited for this next year to come. Hope you keep volunteering with us. And if you know someone else who might be interested in the program, please promote and share us. It's really fun to go out with your friends and family or loved ones. So bring them along, get them trained. See you out in the stream.